Hey everybody, it's Jeff from Programmers vs. World, and yeah, it's been a while, and we'll get to that over the course of the videos later maybe, and things have changed and everything else, but I wanted to stop in today and actually tell you that that I actually appreciate all the subscribers, and I appreciate all the comments that I've been getting from you guys. It's a little bit humbling. When I hadn't even logged into that account in a long period of time, and I just figured it was sitting there idle, and all of a sudden I came back and there's like this swarm of activity on it, and people are coming up with really good ideas and for new tutorials and sending me really good questions, and I just thought I'd take a chance or take a second or two, I guess, to answer some of those. All right. First and foremost, someone had asked me, hey, what's the status of the channel? When are you guys doing more stuff? And the answer to that is soon. I know that's not a really good answer. We have a lot of stuff that's been pending. There's a few of us that ended up taking new jobs and moving around, and we've been all over the country doing different types of stuff. I myself went into consulting and ended up right back in AEM for obvious reasons, right? You can imagine that. I had a friend that went to work for Red Hat and disappeared. I didn't even see him for years. And then he showed up in Denver, and he's got a kid that's about to graduate, and he wants to get involved in something more, and he's at 100% work from home just the same way I am. I have another friend who was just recently coming off a job that wasn't a very good experience from him, and he wants to sort of branch out and start working on other possible projects. So it just so happened it was this perfect storm that three of us sort of got together a few days ago, actually, and just decided that we're going to start generating more content, except this time, instead of sort of being loose and free as I was with it before, we're going to be a little bit more organized in how we approach it. So there's definitely more content coming to the channel. Another question was, is the channel staying AEM, OSGI, blah, blah, blah related? As far as this channel is concerned, it really should stay technologies that are sort of relevant in industry, and AEM is a great target, right? Because it's complicated, it can be a little bit overbearing, and it's hard to find good resources on it. So that's kind of why I started, was to help the people that I work with, and it just sort of went its own direction from there. And that's part of the problem too, right? Is I made it really for people that I was working with, and once they went off and took other jobs and did whatever, it kind of died, and that's my fault. But there is more to come, right? Got a good question the other day. Hi, are there any videos related to adaptive form template and adaptive forms? Not yet, but there will be. I just came off a project, as a matter of fact. It was 6.3 and we migrated to 6.4, but it was an adaptive form project for a government entity. I won't say the name, but that being said, I learned a lot about adaptive forms, and not only that, but how it interacts with a touch UI, and most primarily the rules designer, and how powerful that really is, and the things you can and can't get away with by just making rules. You don't actually have to write a whole lot of code to make some pretty impressive things in adaptive forms, and I definitely plan on doing that. So that's a great question. I think I answered you, actually, because that one got me re-inspired. But once again, I had to wait for all these projects to die down and to get some resources so that I can make some time to sort of doing these things. I had another question too. Just recently, I didn't put it in this list, but it was about doing JSP tutorials. Yeah, I can do that. I would definitely recommend that if you can get involved in an HTL today, or Sightly, or what are you calling it today, HTL? So if you can get involved in that, your life will be a heck of a lot easier. But yeah, if you need some JSP primer, why not, right? What else is happening? Okay, so that wasn't actually a question from someone else. I made that one up. So before we all sort of split up, and what ended up happening was we all came from the general area here in Central Florida, and a few of us worked for the same company at the time, and that company sold out and went other places and relocated everybody, and it sort of messed everyone up. We had sort of a scaffold of content that we wanted to start doing, and one of the things we were really passionate about, and still are, is is just the fact that learning how to code is only one small aspect of like working in the field nowadays. There's so much more, not only cultural and ethical and moral and safety and politics, and there's all these other things that they just can't teach you in school. And we were really fascinated about teaching people that and telling stories, in that regard. So we decided we were going to start this podcast, and it was called Programmer versus World 2. I think we made 3 episodes before we all died. Now, before we all moved on to other places. And we want to bring that back. That's really something we want to do. And we're trying to figure out how to handle it. Everyone being remote was a pain. I remember our last episode of that podcast was just riddled with technical problems with the audio and other things which will drive your OCD crazy. But we want to bring that back, and we plan on bringing that back. And in that forum, we want to talk about the things they don't teach you in school. After you've been doing this as long as so we have, you start combining the years together, and you're just like, wow, you guys have been doing this for a long time. You start to realize that nothing really prepares you for sort of the differences in culture and the differences in people and politics that you walk into from office to office. And it's not something that there's like this recipe to master or anything. It's nice to be aware of it. So it's always a mistake to go into these jobs and sort of think that the skills that you have are good enough. You know what I mean? And it's not. A lot of this is coming from, I had a nephew that just recently graduated with a computer science degree, and then I have a brother-in-law who's lost his job and gone back to school to learn to code. And some of the questions that I'm getting from them, even after my nephew graduated, it's like, really? They didn't teach you why you would use an enumeration. They didn't teach you why you would do that, right? These are really important things. Like, there's no enterprise development job where you're not going to see this stuff, right, and have to use it in a specific way. And it just made me think, that was someplace you could have learned that. We could have been talking that about a podcast. I would have told the story, and I would have got 3 or 4 guys that would have given me great answers of how they've used those in the past. So that's a forum that we want to bring back, if it makes any sense. We also plan on doing some courseware. We have sort of already got the domain and starting to get the plan together and the lesson plans together, how we plan to approach it. And it's basically just going to be a bunch of veterans, a bunch of jaded veterans at that, but a bunch of veterans just teaching basic skills, right? And trying to put an emphasis on thinking about it the why and the smart way of sort of approaching certain things, because I feel like we feel like that's lacking, right? That's how we originally got together in the first place. So we plan on putting some courseware together, and that'll all unfold later. I don't suspect it'll impact this channel at all, because most of you guys aren't looking for that kind of content. But if you are, I'll announce where you can go find that. Yeah, and the last thing is more new developer content. We really only talked about it. Just surrounded by people nowadays. Like I said, I got a brother-in-law and a nephew that are brand new. I have a daughter of my own who graduated after 2 years and went off to do something else, doesn't know anything about the field. And it just, don't really have an outlet for that. Like, if you wanted to learn this stuff online, you could go to specific courseware that would teach you sort of this by-the-book sort of approach to it. And then maybe not. But anyway, that's the status of the channel, and I hear somebody calling me from the other room, so I'm going to go get that. I'll catch you guys later.